The Slayer by John O'Brien. A short story from League of Legends. Read to you by Prestige Edition.
Featuring the voice of the Sweet Sniper.
Poppy had nothing against the Briar Wolf, aside from the fact that it was about to maul her. Its muzzle was stained crimson from a previous kill, and the Yordle wouldn't chance being its next. She was hot on the trail of a renowned monster slayer, and she didn't intend to die before she found the man and judged his worth.
You should step back. You won't survive this,
Poppy told the wolf, holding her hammer aloft as a deterrent. But the Briar Wolf was not discouraged. It padded toward her, propelled by some strange desperation that Poppy couldn't identify. Then she saw the telltale foam at the corners of its mouth. This animal was not driven by hunger or territorial instincts. It was in pain, and it wanted release. The wolf leapt at her as if it had made up its mind that its next act would be to kill or to be killed. Poppy swung the hammer, using every ounce of her strength to move the weapon's considerable weight. The blow she delivered collapsed the animal's skull in an instant, ending its torment. Poppy took no pleasure in the kill, but she supposed it was the best possible outcome for her and the wolf. The Yordle looked around at the empty meadow, but sensed no trace of the monster slayer she'd come to find. She had roamed the countryside, following rumors of his activities, hoping this mysterious hunter might be the fabled hero she had sought for so many years. But thus far, all she'd found were wolves and wyverns and highwaymen, most of whom she'd been forced to kill in self-defense. She had spent weeks traveling from hamlet to hamlet in the far-flung corners of Demacia. She walked as fast as her tiny gait would allow, but the monster slayer always seemed to be one step ahead of her, leaving naught but tales of heroic exploits in his wake. For a Yordle, time is a curious thing, whose passing is seldom felt. But even for Poppy, the search was beginning to grow long. One day, just when she was beginning to doubt herself and her mission, she spied a notice nailed to a roadside post.
All are invited to attend the Festival of the Slayer.
It was a celebration to honor the very monster hunter Poppy had been seeking. If there was any hope of locating this elusive hero, she would certainly find it there. He might even make an appearance, and then she could size him up in person to determine if he was worthy to carry the hammer Orlon had bequeathed her. The prospect put a spring in her step, and she marched with renewed purpose toward the celebration. Poppy was anxious when she arrived at the village, its banners and streamers gaudily proclaiming the day's festivities. Ideally, she would have arrived early at such a public event and claimed a spot in the rear of the crowd so as not to draw attention. But the main market was already packed with spectators, and Poppy found it hard to maneuver through the press of bodies. She squeezed through the legs of the townsfolk, most of whom were too inebriated to notice her.
I'd buy him a pint if he were here,
slurred one voice above her.
Saved my goats by killing that monster.
Poppy's heart raced, as it always did when she heard tales of the hunter.
What if he turns out to be the one?
She thought. But deep inside, Poppy asked a different question. What would she do once she was rid of the weapon? Would she find an entirely new purpose? A yordle without one was a pathetic sight indeed. She stopped her mind from wandering and brought it back to the task at hand. The tiny warrior finally managed to weave her way to the back of the market. She found a tall lamppost, both easy to climb and behind the eyes of the crowd. She then shimmied up the post, just high enough to see over the throng. Poppy was just in time. On the far side of the market, a speaker stood with several Demacian officials on a dais, and behind him, something tall was draped in a ceremonial veil. Even with her keen yordle senses, Poppy could barely hear the man's words. He was talking about the monster hunter, and how he had saved numerous farms and villages from wyverns, rabid wolves, and bandits. He said that although this revered warrior had chosen to remain anonymous, it shouldn't stop them from celebrating his deeds. The slayer had been spotted several weeks ago near the town of Uwendale, leaving the first eyewitness accounts of his appearance. With that, the speaker pulled off the veil to reveal a stone statue. Poppy grew faint with excitement as she saw the hunter's likeness for the first time. He was the paragon of a Demacian warrior, 7 feet tall, armored in heavy plate mail, and rippling with sharply defined muscles. Beneath him lay the corpse of a wolf he had presumably slain. Just as the image had begun to settle in Poppy's mind, she heard the sound of a child's voice a few yards away.
Look, Dad, it's the Slayer, the one from the statue,
declared the wide-eyed girl. Poppy saw the girl was pointing in her direction. She whirled around to see if the Slayer was standing behind her, but no one was there.
No, lass,
said the girl's father.
that one's no monster slayer. Too small by half.
The girl and her father quickly lost interest and strolled through the village to partake in the various amusements. As the crowd in front of the statue dispersed, Poppy moved in for a closer inspection. Now she could see the fine details of the hunter's marble depiction. His hair was long, fair, and bound in 2 separate side knots. His hands were gnarled from 100 battles, and in them he held a massive battle hammer, not unlike the one Orlon had given her. If there was a truer hero in the kingdom, Poppy had never seen him.
He has to be the one.
Poppy said.
Hope I'm not too late.
She turned and left the festival as fast as her legs could carry her, taking the swiftest route to Uwendale. I'd like to thank the Sweet Sniper for this week's collaboration.
You can find me at twitch.tv/thesweetsniper.
All credit for these stories goes to Riot Games and League of Legends. Full details can be found in the video description. If you enjoyed this production, please hit like and subscribe. There's a lot more coming.